Hello, I'm Maurice Dimba and welcome to this tutorial. Today we are going to place a column on top of our sloped footing. And if you can take a look on the screen, you can see actually pad footings there with some starter bars. Now what we want to counter check is this height, the height of our starter bars. I just double click on the starter bars right there. Then these starter bars window will come up, and I'll check the length. The length is actually 600 from top here. Now this is the allowance that we have been given to connect our column rebars to the sloped footing bars. Now I'll close this. I've seen the length or the height of our starter bars. Now I'll click on empty screen just to remove that selection. Now the next step is to place our RC column. I'll come to concrete here and come to to the column right there. Then after activating that command or invoking that command, I'll come and snap right in the middle here. Now what I'll do, I want to change the dimensions of this column. I just double click on it. Remember, let me just take you back. I'll just undo that. Let me just undo that. Let's first of all check this measurement from this end to this end. Now I'll come to edit right here. I'll come to measure, click that. I want to measure from that distance to this distance. That's 400. And I'll do the same thing here, from here to here. This is 400. I assume so. Now it is 400. Now our column should be 350 by 350. Now I'll go back to concrete right here and pick on column, and I'll snap right there. Right click and interrupt. I'll double click on this to change the dimensions of our column. You can see it here is 400 by 400, and we want 350 by 350. 350, not 250, we want 350 by 350. Yes, snap rolls. Let me just snap in the middle there and feed 350 right there. Then I'll click modify, and this is what we want. This is what we want. It is 350 by 350. I'll come to navigate and I'll turn this round so that we can see it clearly. If I switch back to top view, this is what you'll be able to see. Right click, this is what you'll be able to see. This is our column. This is our column. Now let me just switch back to isometric view and bring this close. I want to turn this round so position that I'll be able to do my work properly. Let me click on this and click on empty screen. I'll right click and come to redraw to refresh and remove any part that is unnecessary appearing on our work. Now if you take a look on the screen, we have the sloped footing has a different color, and the column has a different color, but I prefer working with some sort of uniformity. I'll click on this column, and I'll hover my cursor on top of this cube here, and this will give me this opportunity to be able to pick on the appropriate color that I'll be able to use. I can either pick that, then also change this, hover that, then change to that, a color similar to concrete, close to concrete. Now this is what we have now. I'll come right there, and I'll be able to turn this round like that. This is what we have at the moment, and this is our sloped footing. And what we're doing now is placing the concrete column and connecting vertical bars inside our column to starter bars for our sloped footing. Now from this end, taking into account that the height of our starting bars was 600. Now I want to mark I want to mark some points here. Right from this end, I'll come to edit. Come to edit right here, and I'll come to any position, and I want to snap at the bottom end here. And prior to doing that, let's first of all check by how much is our column protruding into our sloped footing. I'll double click that just to counter check. Sometimes it goes deep into the footing. It has gone deep by 200 millimeter, and our sloped footing has also encroached close to 0 level by, I presume, 200 millimeter negative, a negative 200 millimeter. So they're meeting somewhere there, they're meshing properly. I'll click on empty screen, just remove any selection right there. Then I'll start marking. I'll place a guiding point right here. I'll snap right at the bottom end here. I want to offset this point to 600 millimeter height. I'll click on it. Then I'll right click and come to special copy right here and click linear. Then on linear, feed that 600 on Z axis going up, then click copy. Click OK. After copying it, now our point is here. This is the height of our starter bars. Runs from the bottom end here. Then just press Ctrl 2 so that we work on a transparent view. It runs from the bottom end here to that height. It's 600. Now we are going straight to rebar placement for our column. Now this one will place it manually. Manually is much better. Now I'll come to concrete right here, and I'll go straight to rebar here and pick on the bar group. Then I'll pick on the part to reinforce. Then I'll define the height of my vertical bar. I'll snap from that spot and stretch up to this end. I'll terminate that full length to a point where my starter bars ends. I'll snap right there, then press my milled button on the mouse, then define the range of my reinforcement. I want it to start from this end and all the way to this end. Perfect. Now let me just turn this round to check by how much these rebars has offsetted themselves away from my column. Now I want to bring them back inside my formwork. Now I'll double click on this. Double click on this column, on these bars. Then once I've done that, I'll scroll down to cover thickness, and I'll feed here. This is controllable under cover thickness here. Our rebar size is 20, and we can change that to whichever size you prefer. I'm working with 20. The bending radius is that, and we don't need any hook right here. What will be of much importance to us is by how much is our rebar of the formwork. Now I'll feed here 68, or it is 68 here, and in this case I'll prefix it with a negative sign here. I'll feed there a negative sign right there, and click OK. I'll close this and click on empty screen, just to deselect what was selected previously, and I'll do a similar thing here. I want to place some rebar right here. Right click, then click interrupt, then come back to concrete right here and come to rebar right there and pick part to reinforce. I'll pick on that part. Then I'll define the length, I mean the height of my bars. Now the best direction is the other end. Now I'll click on rebar once again and do it on this end, because my guiding point is on this end. Let me just snap on this end, then go all the way and terminate that height, or that height of my vertical bars right here. Then press my middle button on the mouse. Then I'll define the range of my reinforcement by snapping on this end, and I want them to go all the way to this end. That is the part I want to be reinforced. Now what do we do now? Here we don't need 3 bars, we only need 1 bar. And prior to giving it an offset inside our formwork, what we'll do, just click on this, then right click and come to ungroup. We'll ungroup that, then we'll delete this rebar and we'll delete this steel. Then we'll come to this middle one and double click on it. Once you've done that, we want to bring it inside our formwork right here, and we'll remove that negative sign, that distance. We'll not prefix that distance with the negative sign, and that will pull it inside our formwork right there. Then we'll close this for now and click on empty screen to remove that selection. Let me just turn this round once again for us to see clearly what we've done. This is what we've done. This is what we've done. Now I want to mirror this and mirror this part, this end. Now first of all, let me just select the first three. Then I'll play around with my work plane tool. I'll come to work plane here and pick on work plane tool. I want to place my work plane tool right here so that I'll be able to define my mirror line. Now my mirror line, that is the wrong place to place my work plane tool. I'll place it right here. Perfect. Now I'll right click and come to special copy. I'll click mirror. Once I've clicked mirror, I'll be able to create my mirror line from that spot and terminate it here. Make sure your angle is 90 and click OK. Copy. That's it. Right click and exit. It is here finally. Now let's copy this end. Click that. Then reorient your work plane tool. Come to work plane tool. Then we want to place it right here, so in a position that we'll be able to define accurately our mirror line. We'll place it right there, and we'll exit from that work plane tool. To exit from any command, just right click and click interrupt. Interrupt just an window, an exit window from that active command. Just click interrupt. Then once you've done that, just right click once again and go to copy special. Then from copy special, shift to mirror. I'll pick on mirror. Then I'll define my mirror line. You can read it there. Here, first pick on mirror, pick first point on mirror line. I'll define my mirror line here. I want my mirror line to start from that spot and go all the way to this end. I'll snap right there and click copy. Right click and click OK. Perfect. Now you can see that already shifted to this end, and my rebar and my vertical bars are now well seated or well fixed inside my formwork, so that the concrete can be easily poured into it, and we come up with a properly reinforced concrete column. Now the next, we want to place the ties, and before placing the ties, we want first of all to make sure all these are properly connected. The protrusion is way inside, and what we are going to do is to correct this. Okay, let me just turn this round. You can see that. Now what we'll do, we'll come back to navigate, and we'll turn this to a position that we can be able to see everything when we play around with their measurements. Double click on that, then that will bring this dialog box. From here we'll feed maybe 42. Then from plane you can also feed 42, and now click modify. Perfect. They're in the right position right there. Perfect. Let me just zoom out and do a similar thing at the other end. Double click on that and zoom right at the bottom end here, and make sure the starter bars are facing each other perfectly. Now I've double clicked. I want to reposition this right to be on top of my starter bar. Now what I'll do, I'll just type there 42, and I'll feed here also 42 on cover thickness. That is the formwork. I'll close this. Now I'll do this. I'll do the same thing here. Double click that just to reposition all this. I'll come all the way to this end, and I'll feed 42 here and click OK. That will pull it to the right position and a cover thickness. And I'll do the same thing the other end. Double click that and I just zoom at the bottom end so that you can be able to see how this is shifting to the position I prefer. There, I'll just type 42, and I want that also to shift from the plane by 42 millimeter, and will go right on the top of that. Remember, let me just turn this round so that I'll be able to see clearly what is really happening at this end. This one has positioned itself properly, and the other one hasn't. And the reason why, we'll minimize a lot of work by deleting that. We delete that. I'll close this. Then we'll copy it right at this end by mirror command. Just click on that. Then I'll come to work plane tool right here. I'll place my work plane tool right here. I've already picked on it. I'll right click and come to interrupt. I'll come once again to special copy and click mirror. I'll come all the way here and snap on that spot, and I want to mirror that to the other end, and click copy and click OK. Right click and interrupt. Let me check whether it has positioned itself perfectly. It is in the right position now. Perfect, you can see that. The column, the rebars for the column are rightfully facing the starter bus for slabbed footing. Now we want to connect these two. Let me just turn this so that we can see it clearly. Perfect. Now I'll come to applications and component right here, and I'll just type rebar, and I'll use the rebar coupler right there. Just click on the rebar coupler, and I want to couple this to this, and also to couple this to this. This one should connect to that, and this one connect this one to this, and also connect this one to this one to that, this one to this, and this one to this one. And that's all. Let me just turn this around so that you can see it clearly. Now this has been done, and what is remaining now is just to place our ties. Now we'll go to ties placement. We'll go straight on top here. Right click, and we can now redraw this. We'll come here and turn this round like that, and we'll go straight to rebar right there, and come to rebar and pick on that, and pick on the parts we want to reinforce. Pick on the part we want to reinforce. What I've just realized, that's okay. We've done nothing wrong. We'll come back to rebar right here and pick on the part we want to reinforce, and I'll snap on top of this bar and come all the way to this end, and snap right here, and snap also right here, and snap on top of this bar and go all the way to this end, and press my milled button right there, and I'll define the range of my ties. I'll snap right there perfectly, and right click and exit from that spot. Now what we are going to do is to reorganize our ties. Now what I'm going to do, I just double click on the ties. Once I've done that, I'll wait for this dialog box to load. Then we'll use R8, or whichever bar we would like to use, but the size I've picked here is diameter 8. Now on hook to start, I want my hook to bend at 135 degrees, and that length is okay. Also here I want 135 degrees. That bend radius is okay, and length of my bend, I just leave it at 90. And at cover thickness here, I'll feed 15, and also, and here also I'll feed here 35, which will be okay, and this will be adjusted 25. I'll feed here also 25. Perfect. And I go straight and click OK. But prior to that, I want to change the creation method. I want to use the exact spacing. But how many do I want? I want just 17. Now I'll come back here and I'll switch back to that and change that to 17. Perfect. I'll come back to exact spacing and I'll click OK. Perfect. I'll click on empty screen and we'll be able to see what has been created here. You can see this. You can see that. Come to navigate and I'll click on that and turn that round. We've placed our ties. I can also come right at the bottom end here. You can see our ties at the bottom end here. Now we'll use two ties. We'll use two ties in this column just to enhance the strength of our column. Now I'll right click and exit from that. Now I'll go back to column right here and come back to rebar here, and I'll pick this part to be reinforced. I want to reinforce this column, and my next tie I want to start from this end. I want to start from that end, and I'll target this point and target this point, and I'll go all the way to that spot and target this midpoint and terminate it right here and press my middle button on the mouse. Then I'll define I'll define the range of my reinforcement. I want it to start from that spot and stretch all the way to the bottom end of my column right here. Perfect. I'll right click and click interrupt just to get an exit window of that command. Now inside here, this one I'll feed under cover thickness. Just scroll to cover thickness right here. Concrete column. This is concrete column. This is not the rebars. Let me just double click on this rebar, on this tie. Then I'll scroll right away to cover thickness. To cover thickness right here, I'll just type 45 right there, and the rest remain the same. Just to remove that, just to make sure there's no any tie clashing with the other tie. I'll close this one now. It has no use for us now. I'll click on empty screen. Then I'll bring this close so that you can have a clear view of what we are doing. I mean, turn that round. You can see our ties already in their right position. You can see that well fixed, and this is neatly done. I can switch back to my top view. I right click and interrupt, and what I can do now, I can bring this close so that you can view it from the top. This is our column, and you can see our connection from the starter bars, from the footing starter bars to our main column vertical bars. You can see them right there. Perfect. What we are going to do right now is just to switch back to our isometric view, and we want to populate this all over our grid. Let me just turn that round, and what we're going to do, let me just take this work plane tool to a global position right there, and let me just select everything and press Ctrl and deselect my grid. I'll right click, and today we want just to use a linear copy. And now what we'll do, we'll first of all counter check the center to center distance of this grid. I'll come to edit. I'll pick a measure, and I want to measure from this distance to that distance and make sure that is 6 meters. Now, how many do you have? We have 2, 3, 4, 5. And how many do you want on the do you have on this end? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just highlight that, press Ctrl and deselect the grid, right click and come to special copy and pick linear. We want to populate this on the x-axis. We'll come to x-axis and we'll feed 6 meters here, and we'll make sure the z-axis all the remaining axis x, y, z go back to 0 or are defined as 0. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we'll feed 5 here. We have we have one already in place. We'll just feed 4 right there and click copy. There we are. We'll click OK. Then we'll highlight everything right here and press Control, and we'll deselect that. We'll right click and make sure we exit from that command. Let's now count how many do we want to populate on this end. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have the 7th one. We'll right click and come to Spatial Copy and click Linear, and we'll populate this along the y-axis. We'll come to y-axis. We'll just copy that and paste it here, paste that here, and that one change it to 0, and we want 6 on the other end. Just go ahead and click copy and wait for the result right there. There we are. It has been copied, and just go ahead and click OK. Right click and exit. Now you can bring this close. You can bring this close. If we switch back to our rendered view, you can see that, but you can see some traces of our chamfers. I mean the method used to create the sloped footing. Just right click and refresh, and everything will disappear. Perfect. And this is what we're having now. This is what we have at the moment. This is our column and our sloped footing. Perfect. Now we can press Ctrl 2 so that we can see whatever is happening inside. Perfect. Now let's meet on the next presentation, and bye bye for this, and thanks a lot for watching this video, and let's meet on the next presentation. I'm Dimba, and if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to subscribe, and bye bye.